Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling a pretty radical idea. Have you ever felt like you just absolutely cannot get yourself to sit down and focus? We usually beat ourselves up over this, right? But here's the truth. Struggling to study is not a moral failing. You're not broken and you're not lacking discipline. It's actually just a biological equation that we can actively solve. So today, we're going to look at the psychological science behind making hard work, like studying, actually feel, well, addictive. Okay, let's dive right into this. We usually tell ourselves this really simple, punishing story. I'm lazy. But the actual reality, it's a reward mismatch. When you try to focus, your mind is basically screaming for the easy dopamine it gets from, scrolling through social media or checking quick notifications. Those give you instant gratification. Studying, it just can't compete with that right out of the gate. So when your brain sees a huge task, it perceives only this massive effort and immediately throws up a wall of high-effort resistance. It's literally not laziness, it's just a completely mismatched dopamine response. So here is our highly structured, scientifically backed game plan for today. We're covering 1, the dopamine mismatch, 2, hack the start, 3, lower the noise, 4, track the wins, and 5, the anticipation trick. Let's get to it. Starting with section 1, the dopamine mismatch, or the science of procrastination. Now, the absolutely crucial point to understand here is reward timing psychology. It's all about actively working with your brain's dopamine system to trigger anticipation. See, we usually try forcing ourselves into focus through sheer brute force willpower, right? But psychology shows us that if we just alter when we trigger our dopamine responses, we can actually train the brain to crave deep work. It's like a giant puzzle. You stop fighting your biology and actually start using it to your advantage. Which brings us to section 2, hack the start, rewarding the initiation. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we usually do things. The old way is waiting until you're completely finished to reward yourself. But your brain simply doesn't work like that. Science reveals that dopamine is actually released in anticipation of a reward, not just when you finally get it. So if sitting down to study equals pain in your mind, your brain will instinctively try to avoid it. No way around it. The new way? Reward the start. Have your favorite drink or, listen to a minute of your favorite music the exact moment you sit down. You instantly train your brain to associate just starting the work with pleasure. And that brings us to a massive psychological hurdle, perfectly encapsulated in this one simple number, 2. This is the 2-minute gateway. Real, deep thinking requires tremendous patience. And when you visualize a massive, hours-long project, your brain immediately overestimates the effort. It creates this overwhelming wave of resistance. So to get past that hurdle, you follow a really simple sequence. Step 1, start so incredibly small that your brain literally can't say no. Just tell yourself you'll only work for 2 minutes. Step 2, break that initial wall of resistance. And step 3, once you actually begin, let the dopamine naturally increase as continuing the task just starts to feel easier. By following this, a huge, daunting task shrinks down into a totally manageable mental simulation. You gain immediate momentum without that awful emotional shock of a high-pressure start. Okay, moving on to section 3, lower the noise, resetting the baseline. And this brilliantly illustrates the problem. When you're flooded with quick notifications and short videos all day, your baseline dopamine is completely jacked up. Compared to that artificial high, the slow, deep focus required for studying feels like this incredibly uncomfortable mental stillness. It literally feels boring because your brain is currently calibrated for a way, way higher level of instant stimulation. So the rule here is pretty much non-negotiable. You have to remove easy dopamine distractions to let your baseline reset to slower rewards. By lowering the surrounding noise, like putting the phone in another room, turning off notifications, you actively stop your brain from constantly, frantically searching for that next quick hit. And once that baseline drops back down, the slower process of learning and problem-solving actually begins to feel deeply rewarding and engaging all over again. That naturally leads us to section 4, track the wins, making progress visible. Motivation rapidly drops off when your brain feels like it's just standing still. It desperately needs constant forward signals. So what do? You create checklists and track your small wins. With every single box you tick off, you receive these micro hits of dopamine, which completely reinforces the behavior. By turning invisible mental effort into a tangible, visible win, you're giving your brain the exact continuous signals it needs to prevent your motivation from just dropping out completely. It's a real game changer. Finally, we arrive at section 5, the anticipation trick, closing the loop. This one is incredibly counterintuitive. The biggest mistake most students make is studying until they are completely, totally exhausted. When you push yourself to the absolute point of burnout, you subconsciously teach your brain to link the entire study experience with pain. And that means it's going to resist even harder the next time you sit down. So the trick? Stop while you still have energy. Seriously, you want to leave your brain in unresolved anticipation, so it actually craves the next session. This is such a powerful psychological lever. By stepping away while you still feel productive and sharp, the last memory your brain holds on to is one of absolute competence, not pure exhaustion. This creates a brilliant mental loop that makes you genuinely look forward to returning to the task. You deliberately leave yourself wanting more. I absolutely love this quote. Move from being a slave to your habits to having an internal locus of control. We really don't need to rely on sheer brute force discipline. When you actually understand your own brain chemistry, rewarding the start, starting small, resetting your baseline, and stopping at your peak, you stop fighting yourself. You gain true internal power over the whole shebang of your own productivity. So, I'm gonna leave you with this final thought. Is your brain right now addicted to easy distractions, or have you actively found a way to make hard work rewarding? I want you to really think about that. Actually, I'm purposefully using the anticipation closure trick on you today, leaving you in a state of unresolved anticipation, so you'll be craving more of these psychological insights. If you want to master the hidden psychology of your behavior, make sure to subscribe and join us for the next explainer. See you then.